Hey, I'm back, and today I feel like talking about used cars versus new cars for first time car buyers, especially young people. People in the range of, let's say, 16 to 20s, and also people who are low wage earners and middle income earners. In my opinion, I feel that people who are in these groups, shouldn't be buying new cars. But it depends on the circumstances. In general, I believe that a person who only needs to drive short distances, maybe 10 to 15 miles daily, could probably get by on a very good used car. But a person who has to commute 50 miles or more a day to get to work or, to appointments or whatever, it would probably be advisable for that person to go the route of buying a brand new car. But as a whole, I think people who aren't swimming in money should lean more towards buying a good used car. You could find a good used car with low mileage for under $10,000. When I was younger, I got my license when I was like 18 years old, and I didn't buy my first car until I was about 19 or 20. And prior to that, I relied mainly on walking wherever I needed to go. If it was just only a few miles, I relied on walking or taking public transportation. True, it was a pain in the ass to have to wait on bus 30 minutes, only to sometimes miss that bus, or to have the bus to arrive late, and then you end up late to wherever it is that you're trying to go. My first car was about 5 years old. My father gave me $1,500 to put down on that car, and then I had saved up another $1,000. So in total, I put down $2,500 on a $3,500 car. And then I financed the rest over about a few months period. I drove that car for about 2 years. If it weren't for the fact that I screwed the car engine up, I believe that to this day I would have still been driving that car, because it was a great car. It was a Honda, and Hondas are very reliable and very good on gas. From what I've heard, those cars, once you get to 300,000 miles on the engine, you're just breaking that engine in. Another reason why I really feel like a young person should not buy a brand new car is because chances are likely a new driver is going to basically end up getting into a fender bender, which was the case when I got my first car. I had 2 accidents within a 1 year period. The first one I was at fault, but the second one was not my fault. My philosophy is, why spend thousands of dollars on your first car only to have that car wrecked and dogged out and abused from neglect? And let's be honest, most young people probably aren't that well versed in maintaining and caring for a car. 9 times out of 10, that new driver is going to end up driving the car into the ground from lack of care and neglect. In my situation, I ended up blowing the head gasket in the engine of my Honda. And if it weren't for that, like I said, I would have still been driving that car, because I see those cars still on the road. It was 19, and I still see those cars on the road from time to time. So I know that they're good and reliable cars. It had a little bit over 100,000 miles on it when I got it, which is very high. But the engine ran very smoothly and it was quiet. It hummed. Another thing that should be considered is, as a person that's just starting out in life, you don't want to saddle yourself with a huge load of debt. I was looking at car prices online a few days ago, and even nice brand new economy cars go for over $20,000, and that's a lot of money. That's just for a base model vehicle. A base model Honda or a Toyota, I'm quite sure you can find a brand new car for cheaper than that, but still, it's still a lot of debt. Even say in the $15,000 range, that's a lot of debt to incur as a person who may be a low wage earner or a young person starting out in life. Once you take on that responsibility of financing a car, you're bound by that contractual agreement. If you start missing payments, the finance company can come in and repo that car from you, and it goes on your credit report. And with any finance car, the buyer must keep that car insured. Most of the time, that's a stipulation that is included in the sales contract for a vehicle, that the buyer will keep that vehicle insured. Believe it or not, even if you're on time with your car payments, the finance company may still have the right to repossess the vehicle if the buyer lets the automobile insurance lapse. And it makes sense because the finance company wants to make sure that their investment is protected in the event that the car is either stolen or the driver gets into an accident and the car is totaled. I think those are some things that you might want to keep in mind if you're a younger person, you don't have a whole lot of money to spare, and you're thinking about buying a new car. Yeah, everybody wants to have something nice and new and comfortable to drive, but you have to really take a hard look at your own financial situation. And sometimes it's just not financially feasible to buy a brand new car. I say as long as you can get from point A to point B, that's the most important thing. You don't need to have a new car in order to get to where you're going. I would just recommend if anyone who is planning on purchasing a car, take your time and shop around. As with anything, there's a saying in the retail industry, caveat emptor. That's Latin for let the buyer beware. Always, always, always make sure that when you're doing your car shopping, especially for a used vehicle, make sure that you bring somebody along with you who is, if not a mechanic, at least someone who knows a great deal about cars, just to protect yourself against purchasing a lemon. Because depending on the circumstances, when you buy a used car, you may just be buying a car that is as is. And that means that if the car has any mechanical problems, once you buy that car and you sign on the dotted line, you might only have a certain amount of time, depending on the laws in your state, to get a refund on that car if you find out that there's something wrong with that car. When you buy a car as is, you're buying it and taking on the risk that that car might have mechanical problems that could run into the hundreds or thousands of dollars to get repaired. So always bring a mechanic or someone who knows a lot about cars. And the most important thing is to just make sure that you're buying a car that has a good engine, because engines are very expensive to repair. A good engine, a good transmission, and make sure that the radiator is good as well. All the other stuff, such as brakes and muffler, those are minor things that can be repaired for probably under a couple of $100s. A problem like the transmission and engine, you're talking about thousands of dollars, hundreds to thousands of dollars in the cost of the parts alone. This video is going on long enough. I'm thinking I might make another video on this topic, so that'll be it for now. Thank you.